you about being in the world, and I was talking to you saying that what is the meaning of being in the world, various aspects of being in the world. And one of the important aspects of being in the world is to understand the world. And to understand the world means to understand the language. And I gave you several images given by Heidegger to understand being in the world through language. He calls it his language as the home of being, or outside the temple of language, being cannot exist. So, through language, we understand the meaning of our existence. Language. And we interpret our existence in the language. Interpret. I told you I was about to say that we interpret. We interpret. So we interpret things. Everything is nothing but an interpretation. Everything is nothing but an interpretation. Can you see me?
Yes, Father.
Everything is nothing but an interpretation. An interpretation. So, see, everything what we do is we interpret the world. We interpret the way everything is nothing but an interpretation. So how do we interpret things? So we interpret the reality, we interpret our meaning of our existence. What is the meaning of our existence? Everything is nothing but an interpretation. Everything is nothing but an interpretation. And what is the best interpretation, or what is the best language that is available for interpretation? What is the best language available for interpretation? And according to Heidegger, the poetry is the best language for interpretation. The poetry is the best language because the poetry does not hide the reality. Poetry is the most authentic language according to Heidegger. Why he is talking about poetry? Because during his time, there was a famous German poet. Whose name is Holderin, Holderin, Holderin was the most famous poet during the time of Heidegger and well-known celebrated poet, Holderin. And Heidegger was fascinated with the poetry of Holderin. Fascinated. Heidegger himself was a poet, he was a musician. Heidegger himself was a good musician. So you see, he was taken up, and he found that poetry was able to express the deep aspects of human life. In poetry, there is no hiding. Poetry is authentic language. Whereas in our day-to-day language, he calls it as inauthentic. Day-to-day language, day-to-day gossip that you do know, that is inauthentic language. Day-to-day we talk. What do you talk most of the time? You gossip. Listen, what do you do most of the time? You gossip.
Proclaim the word of the Lord, Father.
Rakesh, what do you do most of the time? You gossip. Huh? William, what do you do most of the time? Gossip.
No, Father.
That's a gossip. Whereas Dominic, what he does all the time? Gossip.
Father.
So you see, we most of the time our language is gossip. That is inauthentic. Whereas poetry, genuine poetry, real poetry is the authentic language. It expresses the meaning of human existence very well. Expresses the meaning of human existence. Therefore, he considers poetry, according to him, is the most authentic language to understand human existence. And here, Heidegger makes a distinction between authentic and inauthentic language. Two types of languages are there. One is authentic language, another is inauthentic language. What is an authentic language? Authentic language is able to know the truth of being. Authentic language is able to know and understand the truth of being. Authentic language helps us to have genuine existence. Authentic language helps us to have genuine existence, real existence. Authentic language helps us to reach the core of reality. Authentic language helps us to understand the meaning of our life, the real meaning of our life. Why do we live? Why do we exist? What is the meaning of our existence? Why are we existing? Why are we there? So authentic language helps us. Authentic language helps us to go deep into the inner life. Authentic language helps us to go deep into our inner life. That is authentic language. Whereas inauthentic language is the daily language, gossip, meaninglessness, fun. Inauthentic language doesn't touch the core of our lives. It only touches the periphery of our life. So you make two columns. What are the characteristics of authentic language and what are the characteristics of inauthentic language? So for Heidegger, there are certain language which gives us the authentic meaning of human existence, and one important is poetry. Poetry is a language which helps us to go deep into our existence. Another language which Heidegger appreciates very well is the mystical language. The mystics had powerful experience of the real meaning of human existence. Mystics. Another authentic language is the nature, the environment, the nature, the beautiful nature that we have. That's another. Nature also is. Music is another authentic language. Music is another authentic language. So you see various types of authentic languages. And gossip is inauthentic. Gossip, our daily conversation, the funny things we say, they are all on the periphery level. So authentic and inauthentic language. And authentic language helps us to know or understand being. Am I clear?
Yes, Father.
So I repeat what Heidegger says. So Heidegger says that one of the best ways to understand being is Dasein. Dasein is caretaker of being, is the shepherd of being. And he calls Dasein is nothing but the human person, human being. The literal meaning of the word Dasein means being is there. Where is being? It is there. There. Where is there? Being is, first of all, being is in the world. Being is in the world. Being is not above the world. Being is not below the world. Being is not outside the world. Being is not alien to the world, not a foreigner to the world. Not a foreigner to the world. Whereas people like Descartes, people like Hegel, people like Husserl, even to a large extent, they were most of the time talking about an ideal being. ideological world or an ideal world, thinking world or transcendental world. They were talking. So they were not inserted into the world. Whereas for Heidegger, being is fundamentally we are in the world. So we exist in the world. And the various other salient features of being in the world, which I have highlighted, enumerated, which I have highlighted and enumerated. Being is in the world. Being exists in the world. It understands. It takes responsibility. It is involved in the world. It is not a product, but it is in the process. Or it's a process. It's growing every day. It is trying to understand the meaning of the world. It takes up its responsibility in the world. It is involved in the world. It is engaged in the world affairs. And what is the world? World is everything that surrounds me. World is my world in which I live. My culture, my people, my traditions, my family, the political environment, the social environment, the economic environment, the cultural environment. All this is nothing but my world. So my world is not separated from me. I'm not in a world means a shapeless world. I'm not in a world means an ideological world. It is concrete, real world, the daily world that we live, the day-to-day things that we do. This is my world. So that is where do I get my meaning of existence? In the world in which I live. In the world in which I live, I get meaning of my existence in the world, not in an ideal world. Not in a world which will come afterwards, after my death. No, it's a real, genuine world in which I live today for Heidegger. Not in a world after my life, after my death. No, it's a world in which I live today, day-to-day life. It's not in a world which is ideal. It's a day-to-day life, day-to-day world. So in the world today which we live is a world which is which is struck by calamities, problems, difficulties, uncertainties, anxieties, worries, tensions. There also can be joys, sorrows, sufferings. This is my world. This is the world in which I live. Am I clear?
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father.
Yes or no?
Yes, Father.
Dominic, what is your world
Yes.
in which you live? See, that is the world. The world in which you live. Rajesh, are you here?
Yes, Father.
Are you there, Rajesh?
Yes, Father, I'm here.
So your world of Rajesh, which world he lives?
That's
The
authentic,
world
Father,
of
authentic.
Jayant's world, the world of Lucas, in which world he is living? The world of Glenn's son, in which world he is living? So you see, we all live in a particular world. And our world is different from one another. My meaning of the world may not be the same for you. The world is different. Meaning is different. Human life is different. Experiences are different. So you see, my world, it is not just common world. It is not just common world. It is the world in which I live. I interpret the world. So that's called I interpret the world. World is nothing but language. And I said, what is the meaning of the word language? It is the interpretation. I give. What interpretation do I give? How do I live in this world? Interpretation is how do I live in this world? So that is what he calls by, he means by the, what is hermeneutic. Our life is nothing but a hermeneutic life. What is the meaning? My life is nothing but a hermeneutic life means what? What is the meaning?
Interpretation.
What is the meaning?
Interpretation.
How do I interpret the world in which I
The world
live?
in which I live.
How do I interpret? So life is nothing but a hermeneutic. Life is nothing but a hermeneutic. The way in which I interpret the world, that's how I live. If I interpret the world in a miserable way, I live miserably. If I interpret the world in an optimistic way, I live happily. If I live in a world which is in this one, anxiety, I live in anxiety. So how do I interpret the world in which I live. So that is the meaning of the word being in the world. I suppose I am very clear.
Yes, Father.
So, Glenn, this Lloyd, have you recorded?
Yes, Father.
So you record and you send in the group, and all the videos of this also you send me in a separate file
Yes, Father.
so that I can this one. So any questions so far? Anybody has any questions?
No, Father.
Anybody else has any
No.
questions?
Excuse me, Father.
Yeah. Tell me.
You said about language. You said about language.
Yeah.
So does that authentic language also art and architecture or something of related to arts?
Yeah, yeah. Any authentic language. For Heidegger, it was poetry was the most authentic language, according to Heidegger. But for some others, it could be art, it could be music, it could be, religious experience, it could be meditation, it could be prayer, anything, you know. It all depends on the world in which I live. It all depends on the world in which I live. Am I clear? Ah. So we will continue tomorrow. We will continue tomorrow and see other, we will see other salient features of Dasein. We saw one salient feature of Dasein. Dasein is nothing but being in the world. That's one of the significant aspects of Dasein. The essential characteristics of Dasein, being in the world, and we saw several aspects of being in the world. And we will see tomorrow other aspects of Dasein, other aspects of Dasein. What are the other aspects? Being in the world. The other aspects like Dasein lives in being in time, Dasein for death, Dasein for anxiety. These are other aspects of Dasein that we will see. Is that all right?